1. Fragments of Silicon. When all else fails, we have video games.
We really seem to be in need of is some coffee or, some kind of caffeine.
Yeah, my throat's not feeling so hot today.
I'm like, well, coffee wouldn't help that.
Actually, it would because it's a warm beverage, but yeah. Also, yeah, caffeine would be nice too.
Yeah. Point is, my colleagues are kind of sluggish this morning. I went to bed early for this very reason. Anyway, so welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon's European Interview Edition. Is it worth mentioning the Space Destroyer Hunter Indiegogo campaign still?
Sure.
Yeah, why not?
There's a Space Destroyer Hunter Indiegogo campaign.
Yeah,
It's very slow, but if you can contribute, it'll definitely help Mac.
Yeah, we'll probably go over this in detail tomorrow, but it's starting off slow, to say the least.
Right.
Yeah, it's like there'll be a link in the description after the broadcast, or you can. I'm not going to read out the full link because it's really long. But just go to Indiegogo and search for Space Destroyer Hunter. All right, with that out of the way, onwards to the business at hand. And this week we're welcoming Philipp. Forgive me if I mispronounce this.
Döschl.
How is it pronounced? Döschl.
Right, that's a typical Bavarian name, actually.
Right, Philipp Döschl of FDG Entertainment.
Yeah, right. Hi. Good morning, everybody.
Good afternoon to you.
Thanks.
How you doing?
Good. All fine.
That's good to hear.
Same for you.
All right. So we'd like to start our interviews by getting to know the person behind the game or the studio or what have you. And we'd like to start off by what made you interested in video games in the first place?
Well, it started my very early childhood years when I was about 4 years old and had my first console. I don't remember which console it was. I don't remember which games I had. I just remember there was some yellowish double-decker, and it was a shoot 'em up. I have no idea how the game is called. I'm searching for it for 15 years already, and I can't find it because I would love to play it again. But anyways, it started probably with an Atari and then was NES. And when I got the NES, I was completely blown away by Metroid, Zelda, Mario Bros, and all these games, and it got me hooked. And basically all my friends I had back at around this time also were playing video games. And yeah, the video games kind of were the center of our group of friends, and we kept playing and meeting every weekend to play games. And we started importing games or buying import games from Japan and from the States, consoles as well, like PC Engine. And yeah, and always hooked, and it's always been a big part of my life. And it was one of my best friends and oldest friends I probably know for around 30 years now. I started Dreamcast Total, which was a German-speaking Dreamcast website. We started around when Dreamcast came out in Japan. So I think it was 98, 1998. And yeah, we've been writing reviews, previews about games, about gear. We went to shows to check out the latest games. We've seen Shenmue behind the curtains and did lots of interviews. And so that's actually how it started, like on a professional side in the video games industry. So we were running this website for 2 or 3 years. I was still at school at this time. I was 15 or 16 years old. My friend was, like Thomas, was around 20 years old. And that's basically how we started. And later, around 2001, we then decided to start a video games company, because he was working as a product manager for games at O2, which was a mobile carrier, or still is a mobile carrier. And back then, it was just black and white mobile games and black and white phones, and we thought it was the easiest way to get into making video games. That's when it all started.
I like some rousing games of Snake.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you had a Motorola device, was it Motorola or Samsung?
I think it was actually Nokia.
It was Nokia.
Yeah, Nokia, that's the one.
Hell, I had Snake on my calculator in high school.
Nice.
Still, it was the Nokia one that like everyone played back in like the 90s and the early 2000s. Geez. Was the company that you founded then the same one you're working with now?
Yeah, it's still the same. We founded in 2001, around September. That's when we started. It's just done with school, and I always wanted to make games anyways, and I didn't have anything else to do, so I said yes, and we started running the company. It was a very small budget, and we are not coders or graphic artists on our own. So we had to find people willing to work with us, and it was kind of challenging in the beginning, and took like 3 years or something like this until we could afford like a real office, rooms and stuff. That's kind of how it always stayed. We were growing slowly but steadily, and we're still 100% privately held, so we don't have like any money from outside. So we can still decide what we do and what we want to do and what we don't want to do. So we're a bit more cautious, and there's no sense for us to grow like super fast. There's hundreds of people in the company.
There's no pressure either.
Sorry?
Well, it sounds like since you're privately held, there'd be no pressure for you to grow super fast or anything like that.
Yeah, but so right now we are 14 people. We started with 3 people, just the 3 founders, Thomas, Marcus, and I, and now we're 14 people. So it's a good size, and we keep growing, like around 1 employee per year.
Right. So what was it like making games for the primordia of, mobile development?
Wow. Back then we already had GameCube and all these rather sweet 3D consoles. So it felt like going back in the history of game development, because you were very limited. You just had 64 kilobytes for the game. Like the game couldn't be bigger. And it had to be black and white, and you had to figure out ways how to make a game fit into this small of a size, and it was kind of challenging, but it was a good time as well. And we started really making money once we could make color games.
Yeah, I'm guessing that was sometime in the mid-2000s.
It was still early 2000s around. I think the color phones came up around 2003, something like that.
Yeah,
so
that's about when I remember that it started hitting the market.
Yeah, and that's when we really started growing and making money, and making enough money to make a living out of it, and to be able to spend some money on production as well, more money on production.
And so what was it like when the iPhone finally arrived? And
that was a big game changer because by 2007, the whole classic mobile games market was kind of dead. Or not dead, but it was very challenging for small studios like we were. We just like 5 or 6 people in the company, and it was really tough because when it started, we made direct deals with the operators and with the platform holders. So basically, you made a contract with O2, with Vodafone, with whoever. They sold your game, and you had like the share was like directly after the customer. Yeah, so taxes were deducted, and then there was like a 70-30 cut, something like this. So we got 70% of what was left after taxes. The problem was, I think it was starting in 2005, 2006. They started canceling their agreements and forced especially smaller studios to go through distributors, resellers, and stuff like this. And so you had to do the same work, but you all of a sudden got like a lot less money. And until 2007, there could happen that there were like 5 or 6 instances between you and the customer. So even if the game sold at higher prices, like around 4, 5, 6 euros or dollars, we only got like a very small amount of money. So then we ended up getting between 20 and 50 cents per sale instead of 2 euros, €2.50. And but the volume was not very high. Not like today where you make like hundreds of thousands of downloads with a free game. Nowadays there were no free games. The games were expensive, and then you had like more and more people in between that took a share out of the sale, and in the end it was not enough to make a living anymore. So yeah, when the iPhone came up, we were in a situation where we were really like frightened how it will continue, and we had to go all in on the iPhone. And what we did back then is we had a very popular game series called Bobby Carrot, which was a puzzle game, so the Reddit, and it was very popular on feature phones. Also was pre-installed on Samsung devices and stuff. So we thought, okay, let's bring this game to iPhone. So we took all the money we still had and produced an iPhone game. It was Bobby Carrot Forever, which was our very first iPhone game. And we've been there very early, like I think just a couple of months after the iPhone launched. And we had a very good relationship with Apple immediately. We got featured, and we noticed how good of a market the iPhone and the App Store was, because it was just one mouse click. You could distribute your game worldwide. You just had to make one contract with one party, which was Apple. If you wanted to do worldwide distribution before, it was very challenging, because you had to make like dozens, if not hundreds of contracts with companies all around the world. So just was like instantly everything changed, like the whole market changed. And when the iPhone started, the prices were a lot higher than nowadays. There were no in-app purchases, no free games, no ads. So the games were around $5 or $6. So even though there was a lower sales volume than nowadays, it was still a lot more money than we did on feature phones. And then we said, okay, let's drop feature phones, let's do iPhone. It was a better machine anyway, and we still had to figure out how to deal with the touchscreen, because we've been used to make games for feature phones. We still had like this keypad. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so basically in the 15 years of running FDG, we kind of had a condensed history of video gaming, and we had the chance to make games for all generations, basically. just in a condensed way, which was, rather cool.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, people really don't know how much mobile gaming has changed so quickly over the years.
Yeah, drastically.
I mean, and it's pretty young in comparison to other, markets. Like, it's only been around, like at most 20 years. That's being generous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like 20 years ago we were playing Black and White Snake on Nokia phones. Now, we've got what? We've got console games on our phones now.
Yeah, you could go get BioShock on your iPhone if you so desire.
Yeah, now we definitely have an Xbox One, an Xbox 360. Sorry. Almost like Xbox 360, what we have now.
Yeah, it's somewhere between like PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360. It's and that's all in like the space of 15 years. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, you also develop for Android, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you find to be the? I hesitate to use the word better. But the easier market to develop for.
Sorry.
It's like, what preference do you have? Like, do you prefer like Android or do you prefer iOS? Or
actually,
do you like both?
I like both, and they have both their advantages and disadvantages. What's very good with Apple and the App Store and iPhone in general is that the whole ecosystem is very consistent. Apple is really pushing people to stay up to date with with iOS. So when there is a new OS, okay, just like a couple months later, the majority of the customers will have it, which makes development a lot easier because you can drop older versions of iOS a lot faster. And this is the big problem with Android, where you have a huge fragmentation. There are like more than 10,000 devices. The more sophisticated your game becomes, the harder it will be to have a good compatibility like across all the devices, and you will have to make like draw-offs and say, okay, we will not support this kind of devices because of whatever reasons. And there are like lots of other things. For example, also the store itself on Android offers a lot of options to optimize your game. So you can easily carry out A/B tests through the dashboard for like all sort of things like icons, game descriptions, screenshots, and all this stuff, which is very good. But we're still missing this in the App Store by Apple, and I know the developers are asking for that a long time, but it's still not there. Maybe it'll come someday. And but bottom line, it's not possible to say which platform is better or which is worse. They all have their pros and cons, basically.
Fair enough. Some other mobile developers have given us much more stringent answers, let's say, due to various factors. But I see where you're coming from. Anyway, so being a mobile developer, you have quite the collection of games here.
Sorry?
You have a lot of games.
Yeah.
Exactly how many do you have on mobile now?
There you're asking a question that I actually don't know the answer to. It's way more than 50, maybe more than 60. I never counted them. We're doing iOS for almost 10 years now. Yeah. I don't know, probably around 60 releases.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, mobile gaming is pretty, easy to develop for.
It depends. It depends. It depends on the scope of the game. For example, a game like Oceanhorn, which was a mobile game in the beginning, took quite some time to develop. And it's different with a game like, let's say, I don't know, like another smaller 2D game, or maybe puzzle games, stuff like this. They're a lot easier and a lot faster to develop.
That is a fair point. There does seem to be a bit of a gulf between, say, Oceanhorn and Banana Kong.
I mean, Oceanhorn was a lot. Banana Kong was a lot faster than Oceanhorn, for example. It's a good example.
Right. Though, like, Banana Kong is an endless runner, correct?
Sorry?
Banana Kong is an endless runner.
Exactly.
Which is a fairly simple genre. It's 2D assets and all that stuff. And for the Petty Fan, do you have the trailer running for Oceanhorn yet?
Not yet. I can though. I was waiting till we actually get to that before I just like let it run.
Fair enough. So, well, it seems like we've hit Oceanhorn, so we should probably roll the footage there.
All right. You want me to roll the audio too, or?
Sure. Why not?
All right, 1 second.
Just give me the clearance here. You got that? All right. So, yeah, for those who are listening to the audio portion, we can play trailers now. So, bear with. You'll probably hear the audio, but not the video.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Go for it, Petty.
I'm leaving tonight and I'm not coming back, kid. My fate is tied to a monster from the depths of time. Oceanhorn. I will give you my old notebook from my travels. It will guide your way to an island of a friend. He will help you to prepare for what is coming.
Hello, I'm Nobu Uematsu, and I'll be joining the music production of Oceanhorn. For this project, I composed the main theme plus a few other tracks. The main theme became my favorite track in my recent works, because I knew that I had composed a good melody. Please listen. I hope you like it.
And that's the trailer.
Yeah.
All right.
And
So
Nobuo Uematsu has a kicking British accent. No, I'm kidding.
yes.
It was
You know-
actually the first non-Japanese project Nobuo Uematsu was working on.
Huh.
I suppose the first question is, how did you get him to score your project here?
Well, we contacted him, and he agreed to work on it. And of course, it took some time to convince him and send him materials and stuff. And yeah, but in the end, well, the game convinced him to work on it, and yeah. But it took a long time as well to get the music. Like these kind of musicians have a very, very long lead time. So I think it took, I don't know, almost half a year until he started working on it. From the point where he agreed to work on Oceanhorn, because obviously he has lots of projects going on, and it's kind of like the same with composers on Monster Boy, for example. Yuzo Koshiro, who's a very busy guy as well, and music for lots of great games. And yeah, so if you want to make a game with musicians of that scope, you have to plan it well ahead. That it's not a quick shot.
No. Well, did you face any sort of translation issues? Given the language barriers.
Yeah, definitely. But we always find a way how to get around it. So there's Google Translate, which, well, of course, it's not perfect, but it helps a lot. I also did some Japanese studies, like a long time ago when I went to university. Of course, I'm not fluent, not no means business fluent, but well, we figured out and found our ways. And if it was necessary, we got a translator to make a translation here and there, and that's possible nowadays.
That's good. That's good. Now, did he just do the main theme, or did he do some of the soundtrack, all of the soundtrack?
Some of the soundtrack. It was. I don't remember exactly how many tracks it was. Was it not the whole soundtrack? It was about the half, or like a third of it, something like that. He did the main theme. He did the boss theme. He did the theme when you're on the boat, for example, and traveling from island to island, and a couple of others. And yeah, but it adds a lot of value, and he makes really great soundtracks.
No argument here. No. All right. So, I suppose the next question is, how much of this project was born out of the desire to get, a Zelda game on mobile devices?
Well, the game is. One thing I should mention as well is that we don't have in-house development resources, so we are basically a producing and publishing studio, and we do everything except the production in-house, which is still a lot. That's everything related to producing, financing. We do all the business and legal stuff for the games. We do the QA internally. We do lots of project management. We also do game design here. Just the actual programming and coding and graphic asset creation is not happening here in-house. And the way we work is like cooperations between studios. So either we get pitches from other studios, and they pitch their games, and they need a publisher or producers to work together with, and or the other way around, like we have an idea or find a game that we like, and ask the developers if they're interested in cooperating. And this is what we did with Oceanhorn. So Oceanhorn came to our attention when it was in development, and Cornflakes was talking about it in public on the internet. I think we noticed it when it was on Touch Arcade. And we thought it would be a very cool addition to our portfolio, and like the type of games that we would also love to do, and where we could help improve the game and take it to the next level, basically. Because often, the thing is that developers are often very ambitious, but you always need some money to fulfill your dreams. And also a producer or some expertise in some way that helps you get the best out of it. And and then we were talking with Cornfox and Brothers for some time, and in the end we agreed to work together. And so we published Oceanhorn, we produced it, we funded it, we gave lots of feedback, lots of suggestion how to improve the game. We got Nobuo Matsu and Kenji Ito on board. We helped with asset creation, with level design, and helped to make the game a lot bigger than it was originally planned.
I mean, how big is the game?
Oceanhorn is around, I think, 13 hours of gameplay, depending on how fast you play. So it can be faster, it can be slower, but around 13 hours, something like that.
It's pretty impressive for a mobile game.
It's also impressive for console games nowadays. If you look at campaigns and I don't know, not Gears of War, Call of Duty, for example, they're like 4 or 5 hours.
Sure.
I mean, it has a very high production value, of course, but speaking of playtime, just story playtime, it's getting shorter and shorter nowadays.
Yeah, a lot of those games are largely multiplayer focused, so they don't put in too much of
But to be honest, personally, I prefer a shorter game. It was a cool experience, that was an engaging experience, and that really catches you for maybe 10 hours or 15 hours, or maybe just 5 hours, rather than an endless chewing gum that you play for, I don't know, like hundreds of hours. And like everything's going on like very slowly and everything's repetitive. Like I can't play World of Warcraft, for example. I mean, lots of people love it, but for me, it's just too repetitive. And I played it for half a year. It was more than 1,000 hours of gameplay.
Me, I prefer shorter play times these days, just because, well, we have to deal with a lot of games on this program, and
Yeah.
yeah. So
and also when you get older, I mean, you have to work, you do some sports, you might have family and kids or friends, and well, there's not that much time left for playing, unfortunately.
Yeah, tell me about it. We're reviewing like an RPG this week, and I'm like, oh, geez, how much time am I gonna have to play?
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, so this is also like your first console game, correct?
Exactly.
Now, was that your choice, or is that Cornfox and Brothers?
We kind of talked about that together. We also had gamepad support for the iOS version of Oceanhorn right from the beginning, and we always had this, oh man, this game should be on consoles feeling. But back then it was more challenging than nowadays, because it really got big in the past 2 years, something like that. That also console manufacturers have their indie programs. So, for example, you have ID at Xbox by Microsoft, which is really designed for smaller studios, small publishers, companies, and people like us, but also companies like 50 employees. And it's just an easier way to get your game on consoles. And so this was also necessary to make it happen. So Oceanhorn and lots of other games.
Did you have to change anything drastically moving the game from mobile to consoles?
Yeah, so we did a couple of updates after we released it on iOS. Also content updates and adding more stuff to the game and improving the graphics and stuff like that. And I think it was like a bit more than half a year after the initial release, and the game was really completely finished. So all the content updates, and then Cornfox and Brothers made a complete rework for half a year of the game to release it on Steam, which they decided to do on their own. And that's also why the content is a bit different. So it doesn't have the Nobuo Uematsu and Kenji Ito soundtrack, and a couple of things are different on the Steam release. And then on consoles, we decided to work together again. We got it ported then, and of course the basics for what's the console version were already there thanks to the Steam port. So the improved graphics, improved gameplay, which was really designed for. It was completely redesigned for gamepad, because on iOS iOS obviously is touchscreen, and the gamepad is just optional. But on PC and consoles, you can really play 100% with the gamepad. So this was completely redesigned, and like lots of other things, graphics have completely been reworked. This helped a lot for the console versions already, and the engine was already running in C++. And luckily, the consoles nowadays, it's basically a PC. And a different skin. So it's an x86 architecture. C++ code is running there with no problems. So you can carry over all the logic of the game, and you just have to rewrite everything related to drawing and to some console specific things, which is enough already. It's not an easy job, but been working with a good partner in it who's really specialize in porting consoles. And I think this porting took, all in all, about half a year for Xbox One, PS4.
You okay?
Yeah, I was just coughing. Sorry.
Yeah. Excellent. And right, so this game. The Nintendo Switch, correct?
Yeah, it will come to Switch sometime this year, hopefully.
All right.
It's already.
Yeah. Well, it's like, let's see, because there are several questions I have here.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how much you can talk about because it's still pre-launch, all that stuff.
Let's see.
Yeah. All right. So
you can ask anything, and I'll see if I can answer.
All right. Well, okay. So first of all, like one of the pressing questions is, how did you or Cornfox get into contact with Nintendo and get a dev kit? I believe me, that has been a pressing question in the indie scene.
Yeah. Well, I was I'm doing like most of the traveling for FDG and going to conferences, shows, and whatnot. And I've been hunting guys from Nintendo for a couple of months, actually more because of Monster Boy, and that was like the main reason why I was hunting them. And it took me a couple of months to get to the right people until I met them at some conferences or whatever and got introduced to the right people. And it's challenging. It's challenging because you never know where Nintendo shows up, and like in which business-to-business conferences, and it's hard to get there if you want to be in touch directly with people at Nintendo. If you just want to register there, you just go to developer.nintendo.com, register there, and this process has become a lot easier. But if you want to get in touch with people, which you have to, if you want to develop for a new platform that's not even really announced, it was challenging. It took us half a year from the moment where I got in touch with Nintendo, with the right people, until we got the dev kits.
I can imagine because I've been keeping up with the interviews, and we've been talking with other developers, like we know a dev who really, really wants their game on the Switch, but they're having so much trouble getting into contact with Nintendo. And, this is the story I've heard from others.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the thing is that all three console manufacturers have closed platforms, and they choose the games that will be published on the platforms. And I'm sure that they're getting like lots of submissions, pitches, and lots of people who want to bring their games to the platform. But it's not their strategy. It's not Nintendo's or Sony's or Xbox strategy to make a store like Steam, or even worse, like the App Store, where everybody can release their games. So they're really picky about the games. So I could tell you things, but like, unfortunately I can't in public. But it's challenging. That's challenging. Even if you have like proven games, for example, it's challenging.
I don't doubt it. It's like, especially because, we're kind of in the first phase of Switch development, so Nintendo's been especially choosy with who they partner with.
To be perfectly honest, I mean, lots of people might hate me for what I say now, but to be honest, I think it's the right approach, because cluttering a store to the utmost extent where you don't find anything anymore and where like lots of shit gets promoted, it's not the best for neither for players nor for people developing games. The mobile space shows what happens when a platform is completely open, and what happens there is just absolutely perverted. It's nonsense what's going on there. I mean, nowadays you have to make your games free. You have to buy users for I don't know how many bucks per user, and so on and so on. And it doesn't work for a lot of small developers anymore, because nowadays on mobile, it's just money that decides. Steam is getting a lot more challenging as well. And since the console manufacturers take good care what gets released on their platforms and restrict the number of releases as well, you have a much healthier ecosystem among developers there. So it has pros and cons, but to be honest, over the past years working in this industry, I learned to appreciate closed platforms. Also, the quality is a lot higher because every platform holder is really QAing, certifying the games, and make sure that the games have the highest quality possible. Of course, you still have buggy games on consoles, but it's not comparable to what you have on mobile or Steam. So it's also good for customers.
I would not venture to make a statement one way or another, because they have their merits and demerits. Like,
absolutely, yeah.
Like, I'm not especially a big a fan of how Nintendo's been handling the virtual console. The drip approach has its own problems.
Yeah.
But I also think there's no one solution to anything.
Probably, yeah.
But getting back on focus here, how has developing for the Switch been in both the case of Oceanhorn and we haven't talked about it yet, Monster Boy?
Yeah. We just started playing it yesterday on Switch. And honestly, it's a really neat device. I mean, this hybrid between mobile and a stationary is really nice, and you can really switch it on the go. And playing around with this is really nice. And even if it's just a 720p display, since it's physically so small, games really look gorgeous on it. It's nothing compared to TV. It looks just like twice as good just because the screen is smaller. From the development point of view, well, of course, that's like under NDA, unfortunately. But what I can say is that it's not very hard to get your stuff running on Switch.
I have a question. Will the tablet mode basically support like the mobile version of Oceanhorn, or is it still just Joy-Con control only?
What do you mean? You mean if you have like touch
if you,
controls?
yeah, the touch controls.
No, it's with Joy-Cons.
Okay.
That's with Joy-Cons. I don't think it would make sense to make a. Of course, you could do it. Probably, I think the Nintendo would allow it, but it would make no sense because it's just so much better to play like with physical sticks and buttons compared to on-screen buttons.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
for that kind of game, I would expect that. And it's only really good for games that are specifically designed for
No,
touchscreen.
but I don't know if there will be like really touchscreen based games for Switch, just because of the nature of the console. Because as soon as you plug it to the TV, you cannot interact with the touchscreen anymore. Since
Oh yeah,
Because of
I just
that.
meant in general.
So-
Touchscreen controls are only really good for games that are designed for them.
yeah,
Although I think there might be a pointer thing that you can do some touchscreen simulation with, but I'm not sure.
yeah, but that's like kind of half-hearted approach, and I'm not sure if Nintendo would allow this. From a user perspective, a console where it could switch on the go between TV and handheld mode or whatever, I don't think it would do that well on such a device. I think people would rather get it on a real tablet.
Fair enough. Well, another question is, will the game be in 1080p if you dock it? Both games?
Probably, yeah. Well, most likely.
Okay.
We're not done optimizing, but we're targeting 1080p with 60 FPS.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
We're not 100% there yet, but we're getting there. We still have to get into the system and to the stuff you can do with so all the tools there are, and well, it's just a bit of figuring out how to get the most out of the console. But in the end, I'm pretty confident it will be 1080p and 60 FPS.
That's good to hear. Let's see. Are you doing anything special with the HD Rumble in either Oceanhorn or Monster Boy?
We didn't decide yet because we first want to focus on the game itself. We're still not finished with Monster Boy. We just did a complete review pass, Thomas and I, and we wrote down like every single bit in the game. It still has to be reworked, improved, changed, replaced, dropped, or whatever. And that's still quite a lot to do. So we first focus on finishing the game itself, and then we will think about platform-specific stuff.
Makes sense.
Of course, there will be achievements and all these kind of things where it's available.
I was about to say, does the Switch have achievements?
I don't know. Like I really don't know. That's not it's under NDA answer. It's just I really don't know.
So if
Fair
it's
enough.
there, it'll use
Yeah.
them. If it's not, then
Yeah, you can put them in at the game level, obviously, but whether it's linked to something on the system level.
Yeah, correct. Like I mean, games like Shovel Knight. I think it was Shovel Knight. It has like its own achievement system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's not connected in any way with the OS, and I honestly don't have a clue if there will be a achievement system like in the OS, and I doubt that there will be because otherwise it would have been leaked.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I don't think there's heard anything official, but knowing Nintendo, they've never been high on achievements.
yeah. And to
Like-
be fair,
Well, I mean,
PS3 did add theirs after launch too, so it's possible Nintendo could.
I mean, I think honestly, what I think is that we will see some kind of reward system similar to what they did in Super Mario Run and Fire Emblem Heroes. It's not really achievements, but you get some kind of rewards for accomplishing certain tasks on the game.
Yeah, like in 3D World, you got Miiverse stickers.
Yeah, stuff like that. Or you get, I don't know, if you reach level 10, then you get, I don't know, like 10,000 gold coins for spending in a game shop or whatever. Stuff like this, but it's, I don't know. You probably played Super Mario Run or Fire Emblem Heroes.
Yeah, I think they have My Nintendo points or whatever those are.
Yeah.
But the ones that are only good for like in-game stuff, not the ones that are good for game discounts.
Yeah.
Right, and have you played around with the Pro controller yet?
No, because we still don't have it, and I didn't have a chance to try it out at PAX South, unfortunately. It was just super crowded there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, like
there shouldn't be any problems with it since it has, I think, all the exact same buttons as the two Joy-Cons together. But
yeah, from what I've seen, it's kind of similar to the Pro controller we already know from Wii U.
Yeah, just with the with the left the right joystick swapped with the buttons.
No.
And it's got the gyroscopic controls in it. But how are the, in your estimation?
Sorry?
How have the Joy-Cons been? Like, how are they as controllers?
I have small hands, so I like them. I don't know if the average 2-meter guy will enjoy playing with them. Like if you have like really big hands because you're tall, it might be challenging or fiddly. But otherwise, I really like it. It's a nice gadget. And it plays well.
I was gonna say, of course, for the bigger people, theoretically, the other controller should suffice.
Yeah.
Keeping the controller is really expensive, as is the Joy-Con. It's like, that might be a problem for me because I have very big hands.
Yeah.
Same.
And those things have looked very, very tiny.
And losable.
Yes, very losable. $70 worth of equipment losable.
Nah, I don't think you will lose them, because you always put them somewhere. You either put them to the device itself, or you put it in this. I never know how it's called, like this grip.
Oh yeah,
grip.
It's got the wrist straps too.
Yeah. So I don't think that. No, I don't think that people will use it. I mean, of course, you can lose everything. You can also lose a wired controller, but well.
So,
I would be more afraid to lose the earbuds from Apple, like these new wireless earbuds.
Oh yeah, the stupid
AirPods.
Yeah,
exactly. I would be scared to lose them. That's why I never want to have them. But I doubt I will ever lose a Joy-Con.
Well, that's good to hear. That's really good to hear. It's like, obviously nobody here can speak to anything with the Switch because none of us have played it yet.
Yeah.
I don't think it's come to like any of our areas, and I don't think anyone's rushing to get the system on launch because it's very limited and all that stuff.
Yeah, we've already missed our chance to get one, basically.
Well, if you be at PAX East, I'm sure you'll be able to play there.
I don't think anyone of us is going to PAX East this year.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, but before we should move on to our last topic of the day, and that is Monster Boy in the Cursed Kingdom. All right, and we have a trailer to play. So, Petty Fan,
give me a minute.
As not a coincidence, I've been going over the Wonder Boy franchise with my teammates here, and it's been messing with their heads.
Why?
Because trying to follow the franchise is very convoluted.
Okay.
You know, it's like, especially when you get the Adventure Island side of things into this. Now, more on that tomorrow. All right, Petty Fan, you ready? So, all right. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Should be, yep.
Okay. All right. So, where to start with this one?
Looks like
Right.
a really
So
fun
I
game.
suppose the first.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it definitely reminds me of the classic Wonder Boy game.
Yeah, that's what we tried. We wanted to make a new game in a series that has been asleep for, I think, 23 years, and still make people who know the original series like remember to the original.
Yeah, I gotta say, and then all of a sudden this thing came alive because, well, for those who don't know, there is a actual remake of the game being that is in development by another studio.
Correct.
Does anyone like get that game confused with your game?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they look totally different, but the thing is that we even mix up the name. Yeah, it's like what we do is Monster Boy, and we still call it Wonder Boy sometimes, but it's Monster Boy. So that's the first mix-up, and for people who are just like following it, like not that close, yeah, I totally understand it gets confusing, especially because by the end of last year there was another Wonder Boy release, or another Wonder Boy remake, which was the remake for Wonder Boy 1, like the very first arcade Wonder Boy, which was not this adventure type of game, but it's more like a runner, like an arcade runner. And,
I'm just waiting for them to come out with Wonder Monster in Boy World.
Give
Yeah,
it time.
actually,
Give it time.
that's actually what we already did, because there's Wonder Boy and there's Monster World, and we combine those, which gives Monster Boy.
Yeah.
Just to make it more confusing for people.
Yeah, it's one of the many peculiar original franchise because it's kind of two franchises. You know, it was Wonder Boy, then it went Wonder Boy and Monster World, and then Monster World. You know, that last one's easily explained because the last Monster World game starred a girl.
Sorry?
The last Monster World 4 actually had a girl protagonist.
Exactly.
Which is why they dropped the Wonder Boy part.
Well, it was Monster World. They already started was this Monster World naming before. Monster World, not Monster World. And I think I don't know the exact reason why it started was this is Monster World naming, but probably it was to make it more to give it a bigger difference compared to the arcade game, and to give it more sense of adventure.
That's a distinct possibility, but trying to figure out so many of the things that they did on this series confounds me. Like there are two Wonder Boy 3 games, for example. You know, one of which is I believe the direct inspiration for this. Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap, or Dragon's Curse if you played it on the TG16, and then you have Wonder Boy 3. I forget the subtitle, but that was the arcade.
Dragon Slayer.
No, the arcade game.
That's Dragon Slayer.
Dragon Slayer. Yeah, that's.
The first arcade game was Wonder Boy, and the second arcade game was Wonder Boy 3: Monster Lair. Yeah,
and Wonder Boy 3 was like the classic runner combined with a shmup. Like I said, it's kind of hard to keep them all in track. But anyway, getting back to Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, was this game pitched to you, or is this something you found? How did you get involved?
We actually knew the studio before already from the mobile day, from the like pure mobile days. That's Game Atelier from Paris, and we've always been loosely in touch. And then all of a sudden, we always wanted to work together because they did Flying Hamster 2, which was a very nice shoot 'em up. And then all of a sudden, we saw this Kickstarter, Flying Hamster 2, which was not a shoot 'em up, but it was a game paying homage to the old Wonder Boy and Monster World games. And we've been just finished with Oceanhorn, and we've been looking for the next step for us as well. And we thought that this might be just the right thing for us as well, and also something that we would love to work on and be part of. So we started talking with Fabien and his guys, and well, we quite fast agreed to work together. And well, everybody also could see that we did a good job with Oceanhorn. And yeah, that's basically how it started. And at about the same time, also Ryuichi Nishizawa, who's the creator of the original series, also got aboard. And this was like the kickoff for Monster Boy, actually. And after just a couple of weeks and looking what's there and what we can do and all this stuff, it was rather obvious like the obvious next step would be to make it like an official part of this legacy and of the series. So we renamed the game to Monster Boy. The creator was more involved in the production, and yeah, that's basically how it all started. So we saw it in Kickstarter, talked to Game Atelier, they canceled the Kickstarter, and we started working together.
Yeah. Now, how long has this game been in development?
About 4 years, I think. Is it 3 years? Is it 4 years? I don't remember. I think it's 3 years. We were on board for 2 years, and it's in development for 3 years. I think they started like a year before we started working together.
I can definitely buy that, given how how vibrant and animated the graphics are for the game.
Yeah.
It's like, it's actually some of the best 2D sprite work I've ever seen. No joke.
Thank you. No, I'm sorry. It's 4 years. It's 4 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it'll look even more amazing very soon because we're working on lots of the graphics right now. So you can also, if you're following our development blog on monsterboy.com, where we already posted a couple of things that we're working, and you can see the improvements there.
Well, how far along would you say the game is currently?
I think we're at 90%, but the last 10% always what takes longest.
Of course. Right. So, what sort of animal forms are we looking at here? What sort how are they going to help you in gameplay?
Well, there are six transformations in total, or 6 forms. So there's the human form, which you start the game with. That's like a more classical gameplay. So you can run, you can jump, you can equip swords, armors, and stuff. You can use items. You can cast magic as well. So that's about it for the human form. And relatively early in the game, you get transformed into the pig form. And from there on, there's no way back to the human form because you're cursed, basically. And the pig has a total different set of abilities. So he cannot equip armor or use items and stuff like this. But he can cast magic, and he can use his snout to smell secrets. So there are like secrets hidden all over the game. You need some of them to advance in the game. Others are just secrets. And so basically you can find them by smelling and using your snout. There's also the snake, for example, which obviously, like a snake, cannot equip items as well. It cannot cast magic as well, but it can spit poison. It can dash, and especially it can climb up walls on certain spots. And yeah, so every animal really plays totally different. It's kind of like 6 different games in one, or 6 totally different gameplay mechanics in one. And the frog, for example, he has a long tongue. She can use to swing. So there are anchor points where you could grab it with your tongue, and then you can swing. If you remember Worms, for example, there was the ninja rope, and you could swing with that, and it's kind of similar. So really, every animal form is different.
You said you can't go back to the human form. That's just a temporary thing, or is that once you're through the first part of the game, you're just in the other forms?
You will find out when you play Monster Boy. Yeah. I don't want to spoil all the fun.
Fair enough.
Although it does look like the frog form can equip swords and
exactly.
shields, so
exactly.
It doesn't look like you'd be at too much of a loss if you're stuck out of that.
Yeah, and it cannot cast magic.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's the rub.
Exactly.
Right. So, how did Yuzo Koshiro get attached to this project?
Well, after Oceanhorn, we were always big fans of Japanese video game music. Be it Nobuo Uematsu, who did an amazing work with Final Fantasy and the Square games, same as Kenji Ito. But like most favorite game series here in the studio probably is Ys. I don't know if you know it.
We know
it.
It's a very popular series in Japan, and we've spent countless hours playing these games, also just for the sake of the music. And the composer of this series is Yuzo Koshiro. And since it's a game originating from Japan, was the original Japanese series creator, with a Japanese flair, with our love for Japanese games, we thought it's best if we get Japanese musicians on board. So we got the original composers from the series, for example, Michio Yamane, who did also soundtrack for Castlevania, for example, and also for the original series of Wonder Boy and Monster World. And we thought of a couple of other cool musicians, and we came up with Motoi Sakuraba, who did an amazing job on the game, with Yuzo Koshiro, which is our favorite musician, basically, thanks to Ys. We contacted all of them and pitched them the project and got into talks with them, and finally they agreed to make music for these games. I mean, bottom line, they're just normal humans like everybody else, and they're doing their job. So if they get contacted, well, chances are high that they will work for you as long as you have a game that they like and they want to support as well, because they get like probably an endless amount of inquiries every day.
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, it depends on what where they are and what they're doing. Like I think Michiru Yamane's main project this year is Bloodstained.
Might be. I didn't follow it precisely, to be honest. But also, if you want to work with people of that scope, it's also a question of budget.
Of course.
On Monster Boy, the music alone was close to 10% of the budget.
Wow.
Which is around the same percentage as it's on movie productions, for example.
I'll take your word for it because I honestly don't know. It's like, so this game is coming out for the PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and is the game being developed for all platforms in tandem, or is it like being focused on the PC now, and are the consoles coming later kind of deal?
Well, actually, it's running on all 4 platforms already. So it's running on PC, it's running on PS4, on Xbox One, and on Switch since yesterday. And sorry. So we already show it on shows like PAX, for example, or Gamescom here in Germany, on running on consoles. But most work right now is done on PC.
Makes sense.
But it doesn't really matter because all platforms understand C++, and the game is coded in C++. So the main logic of the game, like the heart of the game, can be translated to any platform. It's just basically.
So the game is going to look the same, play the same, on all 4 platforms.
Yeah. That's also the good thing with 2D games, because, you cannot change the amount of polygons in 2D, and you don't have the same restrictions as we used to have, like in the 80s and 90s, where consoles just could show like a limited amount of sprites of a certain size and stuff like this with certain palettes. Nowadays, you can just do whatever you want, especially with 2D games.
Right. It's just I know people get like antsy when dealing with like games with Nintendo hardware and other platforms, because Nintendo hardware tends to be underpowered compared to other.
Yeah.
I know that is sort of the case with the Nintendo Switch, but from what I've heard so far, at least in terms of like 2D games, it's much less of a difference than say the Wii U and like the PlayStation 4.
Yeah. I mean, a 3DS port is certainly not happening for Monster Boy or for Oceanhorn, because it would be a complete new development. Also the code, and so the effort would just be too high. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's okay. No, that makes sense. I mean, the 3DS is quite old and underpowered compared to just anything else out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like even the new 3DS was only so much of a power boost.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you like ever plan to do Oceanhorn or Monster Boy on the Wii U, but that system's pretty much dead at this point. So it makes sense to build for the Switch at this point. Now, are you looking to launch the game on all platforms simultaneously?
Yes. On all consoles simultaneously. On Switch, Xbox One, and PS4.
Okay.
And the PC release will happen later.
Okay, so it's launching on consoles first, then the PC.
Yeah.
I gotta admit, I don't encounter that too often these days because
Usually
like
it's the flip.
Yeah, it's it's because the development runtime is a PC anyway, so they release that version first, then they go to the consoles.
Yeah, but Monster World and Wonder Boy, it's a console series.
I know. If you want to get the Wonder Boy series, digitally, the only way you can do that complete is on the Wii Virtual Console.
Or on Xbox. No, was it on PS3? There was one Sega Classic Collection or something like that where it was a compilation, Sega Ages or something like that. It was PlayStation 2. Oh my God, it was PlayStation 2.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So that's even older.
And then there was a Sega Vintage Collection, Monster World. It was not the whole series, it just was 3 parts, which was released on 2012 on Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network. Yeah.
Anyway, in regards, Galaxy, you want to go first?
Oh no, I was just saying the PS2 is even older than the Wii Virtual Console.
Yeah. Well, in regards to the PC version, is that Windows or is that Windows, Mac, and Linux?
We will see. It'll be definitely Windows, of course. For the rest, we'll have to see. Because Linux is... it's such
Linux is fun. Cough, cough,
Yeah.
wink, wink.
It's a nice platform, yeah, but it does not have the spread. If you make a port, well, you have to make the trade-off if at least you make a break even, and it's already challenging to make a break even with a Mac port, and I didn't hear of anybody who made a break even with their Linux port. I don't know many developers who, if they do Linux ports, they just export it and don't even test it because they don't have the Linux machine.
Yeah. And also Linux machines vary so much.
Yeah, and there's so many different Linux systems, and it's so cluttered, and I don't know. It's not the gaming platform. Linux. I don't know. So I doubt that there will be a Linux release, to be honest.
Would it be possible to see about doing a SteamOS version for Linux? Since that's kind of more of a unified thing?
Might be. But it depends. Like, this would be probably a pure business decision because it's by far our most expensive production so far. So we're talking of a budget like really north of $1 million. And so every dollar you add on top, you have to be sure to recoup it.
Right.
And as much of a passion as it is to make games, and as much as we love it, we also have like a rent to pay. We have employees to pay. We have obligations and all this stuff. So yeah, you have to be thoughtful about where you spend the budget and where not. It's not to offend people, but it's just like, in some points, it's just pure business.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Any aspirations to bring this game to mobile, or is it strictly a console PC affair?
Might be. We'll see where the journey goes after the Steam release. I'm not confirming or denying it. It's just, we'll see. It also depends if it'll be good, well, playable on touchscreens, because really you really need every button on the gamepad to play Monster Boy. And so this.
So basically, Linux and mobile aren't off the table, but they're not confirmed yet.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Same for Mac.
I suppose if a portable version is desired, well, there's the Nintendo Switch version right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there's still a difference between mobile devices and Switch. So the Switch version, also the Switch version of Oceanhorn, is superior to the mobile games, to the smartphone versions.
I gotta.
It doesn't have the same assets.
I gotta admit, I don't exactly know how that works, since not too many people have worked on the Switch yet. How does the Switch differ from a mobile device? Other than the obvious.
I don't know exactly what you're referring to.
Well, like it's using some, like the NVIDIA Tegra, which is a mobile hardware chipset.
Yeah.
So, like, how does it differ than, say, developing for like an Android device?
Well, what's the difference? What's the difference between computers? Computers are computers. So what differs most is like the way you get the input, and well, bottom line, it's all computers. They can be programmed with C++. So the difference is the screen size. It's all the peripherals, and of course the approach. If you have certain input devices, well, you can go a certain approach for controlling the game. I don't know if that answers your question, or if I'm totally off.
I think what my colleague was asking is, exactly what reason why the Switch assets of Oceanhorn are different than the mobile assets. Is that
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the difference is that the textures are of higher resolution. There are more effects, like graphic effects and shaders, and like technically there's like lots of difference, just because the Switch is more powerful than a mobile device.
That's really interesting to hear.
I mean, this is something if you have like Oceanhorn, if you have, let's say you have all versions of Oceanhorn, and you have like 10 devices where it's running on, and like really different devices like a PS4 and Xbox One. PS4 and Xbox One versions are the same anyway. So take like two different PCs. One was the highest settings, one was the lowest settings. You take an iPhone 4 and an iPad Pro or something like that, and a couple of Android devices, and you will see that on every device it will look slightly different, just because you have a different amount of RAM, of computing power, of whatever, and you have to adapt it to every configuration. And so what you have for where you can make adjustments, it's basically all the assets, so basically the resolution, the dimensions of the textures, maybe the polygon count, also the resolution in which you draw to the screen. So there are like a couple of variables that you can change and adapt, and according to them, it'll look a bit different on every platform. It's still a very exact and same game, but the look will be different.
I suppose on that note, when do you think we'll be able to see Oceanhorn Switch Edition?
You mean when it's released?
Yeah.
Probably second half of the year.
Second half of the year, and I assume
Probably,
it's like at some point we'll actually see Switch footage between like now and then.
No.
Makes sense. No. Right. So shifting back to Monster Boy for a few last questions. Has any sort of pricing been determined yet?
Not yet. Not yet.
Will it be getting a physical release on Switch, or will it be digital only?
We'll see. You're asking questions we don't know ourselves right now.
Some developers already have that kind of stuff sorted out, some don't. It's better to ask than, not.
Once things are decided, then we'll absolutely make an announcement. But we don't know yet.
I'm sure those will get nailed down in the months ahead. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's been lovely having you, but sadly we are run out of time.
No worries. Thanks a lot for your time.
No problem, no problem. We'll definitely have you back on the program again to talk about Oceanhorn 2, Knights of the Lost Realm.
That would be with Cornfox, because we're not working together in Oceanhorn 2. So they're still doing it on their own, and yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. So, all right. Anyway, in regards to Monster Boy, I'm looking forward to the game. And we're hoping that we'll be able to review it once it gets released.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. And and in regards to having you back on the program, well, whenever your next project is ready to be talked about.
Sorry.
We'll have you back on the program whenever your next project is ready to be talked about in public.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. Be sure to join us tomorrow at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific, as we'll be welcoming various members. Still waiting to see how many people actually check in, but we've got 3 confirmed so far from D-Pad Studio, the minds behind Owlboy. Looking forward to talking about that game. And hopefully you'll be there to listen. But until such time, I wish you good gaming.
Alright.